My name is Eric Benari. This is Games People Play. In today's game, we're going to play Look How Hard I've Tried. In its common clinical form, this is a three-handed game played by a married couple with a psychiatrist. The husband, usually, is bucking for divorce, despite loud protestations to the contrary, while the spouse is more sincere in wanting to continue the marriage. He comes to the therapist under protest and talks just enough to demonstrate to the wife that he is cooperating. Usually he plays a mild game of Psychiatry or Courtroom alongside. As time passes, he exhibits the either increasingly resentful pseudo-compliance or belligerent argumentativeness towards the therapist. At home, he initially shows more understanding and restraint and finally behaves worse than ever. After 1, 5, or 10 visits, depending on his skill depending on the skill of the therapist, he refuses to come any longer and goes hunting or fishing instead. The wife is then forced into filing for divorce. The husband is now blameless since his wife has taken the initiative and he has demonstrated his good faith by going to the therapist. He is in a good position to say to any attorney, judge, friend, or relative, "Look how hard I've tried." The antithesis of this story is that, let's talk about that. The couple is seen together. If one, let us say the husband, is clearly playing the game, the other is taken into individual treatment and the player is sent on his way on the valid ground that he is less ready for therapy. He can still get a divorce, but only at the expense of abandoning his position that he is really trying. If necessary, the wife can start the divorce and her position is much improved since she really has tried. The favorable hoped-for outcome is that the husband, his game broken up, will go into a state of despair and then seek treatment elsewhere with genuine motivation. In its everyday form, this is easily observed in children as a two-handed game with one parent. It is played from either of two positions: I am helpless or I am blameless. The child tries but bungles or is unsuccessful in whatever it is that they're doing. If he is blameless, the parent has no reasonable grounds for punishing him. This reveals elements of the game. The parents should find out two things: which of them taught the child the game, and what they are doing to perpetuate it. An interesting, though sometimes sinister variant is Look How Hard I Was Trying, which is usually a harder game of the second or third degree. This can be illustrated by the case of a hardworking man with a gastric ulcer. There are many people with progressive physical disabilities who do the best they can to cope with the situation, and they may enlist the help of their families in a legitimate way. Such conditions, however, can also be exploited for ulterior motives. In the first degree, a man announces to his wife and his friends that he has an ulcer. He also lets them know that he is continuing to work. This elicits their admiration. Perhaps a person with a painful and unpleasant condition is entitled to a certain amount of ostentation for poor recompense for his suffering. He deserves some reward for continuing to assume his responsibilities. In such a case, the courteous reply to "Look how hard I'm trying" is, "Yes, we all admire your fortitude and conscientiousness." In its second degree, a man is told that he has an ulcer, but keeps it a secret from his wife and friends. He continues working and worrying as hard as ever, and one day he collapses on the job. When his wife is notified, she gets the message instantly: "Look how hard I was trying." Now she's supposed to appreciate him as she never has before, and to feel sorry for all the mean things that she has done and said in the past. In short, she is now supposed to love him. All previous methods for wooing her have failed. Unfortunately for the husband, her manifestations of affection and solitude at this point are more apt to be motivated by guilt than by love. Deep down, she's likely to be resentful because he is using an unfair leverage against her and is also taking an unfair advantage of her by keeping his illness a secret. In short, a diamond bracelet is a much more honest instrument of courtship than a perforated stomach. She has the option of throwing the jewelry back at him, but she certainly cannot decently walk out on an ulcer. A sudden confrontation with a serious illness is more likely to make her feel trapped than won over. This game can often be discovered immediately after the patient first hears that he has a potentially progressive disability. If he is going to play it, the whole plan will very likely flash through his mind at that very point and can be recovered by a careful psychiatric review of the situation. What is recovered is the secret gloating of his inner child at learning that he has such a weapon, masked by his inner adult concern at the practical problems raised by his illness. In its third degree, even more sinister and spiteful, is the sudden unheralded suicide because of serious illness. The ulcer progresses into a cancer, and one day the wife, who has never been informed that anything serious is amiss, walks into the bathroom and finds her husband laying there dead. The note says clearly, "Look how hard I was trying." If something like this happens twice to the same woman, it is time for her to find out what she has been playing. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next game that we will play.